Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. My name is Don Arleth, and you're watching World News. The Ukrainian Foreign Ministry has confirmed reports from Ukrainian media that the U.S. Special Envoy for Ukraine, Kellogg, will visit Kyiv next week. We are expecting him. We will gladly welcome him in Kyiv and hold a series of meetings, the spokesperson for the Ukrainian Ministry of Foreign Affairs has said. The Ukrainian site Noviny Live reports that Kellogg told one of its reporters that he will stay in Kyiv all of next week. The comment was made on the sidelines of the Ukraine Recovery Conference in Rome. At the summit in the Italian capital, Kellogg stressed that the Trump administration wants Ukraine and Russia to reach a, quote, comprehensive and permanent peace settlement. Regional authorities in Ukraine say Russian attacks over the past 24 hours have killed 9 people and wounded 42. Local media report that the governor of the Kyiv region said that 10 settlements suffered Russian strikes, killing 1 person and wounding 14. In the city of Kyiv, Moscow's forces hit a maternity hospital. Officials said that there were 9 casualties, including women in labor and others who were recovering from surgery. In the Donetsk region, Russian strikes claimed 7 lives, 3 of whom were from the town of Pokrovsk, where 4 fatalities were reported in nearby villages. The governor of the southern Kherson region said that Russia targeted 37 settlements over the past 24 hours, wounding a total of 14. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is encouraging NATO allies to hold stocks of American-made Patriot air defense batteries to provide them to Ukraine. Rubio made the comments after President Donald Trump earlier on Thursday said that Washington would supply defensive weapons to Kyiv via NATO.
A number of the defensive weapons that Ukraine seeks our allies in NATO have them. So as an example, Germany, I believe, has 13 or 14 Patriot batteries. Other countries do as well, Spain, others, and some have placed orders for that. And so we've continued to encourage our NATO allies to provide those weapons, systems, those defensive systems that Ukraine seeks, that they should provide those weapons to Ukraine since they have them in their stocks. And then we can enter into financial agreements with us where they can purchase the replacements.
Discussions are ongoing among European ambassadors to try and convince Slovakia to support the EU's 18th sanctions package against Russia. Friday's lobbying efforts have culminated after weeks of consternation from the Central European country's Prime Minister Robert Fico over claims that the EU executive is holding its energy supply hostage. We're now joined live by our EU correspondent, Angela Skujins from Brussels. Good afternoon, Angela. So why won't Bratislava budge on these measures against Vladimir Putin?
Yes, so Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico told the press yesterday that he would vote in support of this sanctions package, the 18th since Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. However, he says that he needs guarantees from the European Commission that the affordability of energy supplies won't be impacted if Slovakia forges ahead with the EU executive's plan to outlaw and ban all Russian energy by 2030. Now, news reports coming out of that Central European country suggest that if Slovakia ends a short-term contract with Gazprom, that is the Russian state-owned energy giant, it could face a 16 billion euro fine. So Robert Fico here is using the 18th sanctions package as a pawn to hopefully get some leverage in terms of that energy contract. But those ambassadors from the 27 EU member states met at 3 o'clock today. They've held back-to-back discussions regarding a range of issues, but we're hoping for some formal confirmation regarding whether the position of Robert Fico and his ambassador have changed. But the foreign ministers will be meeting once again in the Belgian capital on Tuesday to hopefully find a breakthrough or a conclusion to this saga.
All right, Angela Skujins reporting there from Brussels. Thank you for your report. Russia has decided to close the Polish consulate in Kaliningrad beginning on August 29th. The decision comes in response to the recent closure of the Russian consulate in Krakow over evidence of the Kremlin's involvement in a 2024 arson attack in Warsaw. The Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs announced that it will close the Polish consulate in Kaliningrad, Russia's European exclave. Their official statement says the act is in response to the closure of the Russian consulate, and this decision was caused by the, quote, unjustified and hostile actions of the Polish side, end quote. On June 30th, Poland closed a Russian consulate over evidence that Russian intelligence services were behind the arson of a major shopping complex in Warsaw. Moscow has rejected the accusations, describing them as Russophobic. Greek MPs have vowed to temporarily stop processing asylum applications from northern African migrants who arrive by sea. Politicians say the move will reduce the surge of arrivals from Libya via the Mediterranean. The ban comes as authorities battle to handle the numbers of people arriving on their shores. The islands of Crete and neighboring Gavdos have seen a fourfold increase in migrants to more than 7,000 so far this year. Talks between Athens and Libya's Benghazi-based government aimed at stemming the flow of migrants were canceled earlier this week. The new law halts asylum processing for at least 3 months and allows authorities to quickly repatriate migrants without prior identification process. Thinking of future generations through the lens of current relations with Russia, Ukraine has introduced a special class into its school curriculum. The subject, aptly named the Defense of Ukraine class, features drone building and piloting and other skills that could become useful to Ukrainian children in the future.
The characteristic high-pitched buzzing of drones now fills classrooms across Ukraine. Children as young as 10 years old are learning all about flying and making these devices from scratch, some of them even scared of what they're being prepared for.
When I first brought drones to class, the reaction of the children was that you are going to send us to war. It was something they did not want to hear at all.
While the teachers say drone operating skills could also be used in the agricultural field, in filming, geodesy, and so on, the older students know of the darker aspect of these lessons.
High school students are learning to fly drones, and some of them know they need it. They know they will go to war if necessary and will have useful skills right away.
Despite the optics, Ukrainian officials responsible for the reform say their goal isn't to turn children into soldiers, a tactic used by Russia, but to prepare them for real-life situations that could very likely happen in the children's near future.
A French icebreaker will transport a group of international marathon runners to the top of the world to take place in this year's edition of the North Pole Marathon. The race is scheduled for July 13th, and the run is over roughly 42 kilometers of frozen ice. Apart from the runners training abroad, scientists are able to complete research on the ship where they are equipped with laboratories and other instruments.
It's going to be obviously cold, and you never know, you might get a polar bear popping his head up. So I've got to run. It's got to be quicker than the second fastest, or second slowest, should I say?
Well, the experience so far has been amazing. I think the biggest thing with training has been the boat moving. So even though you're doing laps around the boat, it's constantly moving. So not running into anything, but it's good to get acclimated to the temperature for the race.
We know also that the sea ice thickness in North Pole, but in all the Arctic, is also decreasing. So we've got less and less thickness of the ice. We are installing a lot of devices, a lot of instruments, a lot of sensors. That's why we also have the sensors, the sea ice measurement system, to have more and more data. And after, the scientists, they can analyze, they can make conclusions, and they can make some trends concerning these different variations.
And this just in, coming to us from Brussels, Slovakia has maintained its veto over the EU's 18th sanctions package, which means, well, there's going to be quite a bit of more negotiations going on to get that pushed through. Well, that's all the time we have here on World News. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.